Hey everyone, this is Luke Johnson for Know Your Poker. Today I've got a real treat for you guys. We're going to be reviewing a super high stake heads up battle between Trueteller and LLinusLLove. As you can see, Trueteller's sitting there with $526,000, so it's going to be an insanely high stake game with a bunch of sick hands. Let's jump into it. Hope you guys enjoy. They are playing 200-400 with a 100k effective stack. By the way, to viewers, in case you're wondering, this was played some years back now. This is when Linus was effectively solidifying himself at rank 1 position in the world. And Trueteller decided to sit down one day and test him on that. So far, it's gone very well for him. He 3-bets to 13.5 big blinds, more than 5k, which is just sick when you think about it. Linus is thinking 4-bets to 32.5, right? Yes. Pot's already 26k. It's crazy how big this game was. Really good flop for Linus. Yes, they are very deep, but kings and queens just go in pre-flop almost always when you're out of position in Trueteller's shoes. So he doesn't really hit this board very well. Linus connects very well, obviously, with top sets. He's got more aces, more ace-king. He does very well. Range bets, I presume, for about a quarter pot. Somehow it's just a bit north, because quarter would be... oh no, sorry, that was just quarter pot. Trueteller calls pretty fast, which is noteworthy. If he happened to have a few of the king-queen combos and wanted to trap, would he really trap that quickly? It's questionable. Maybe not. Linus now is... Okay, he checks back. He is just going to go kind of conventionally polarized here. He's playing with a 2 SPR, 40k in the middle, 80k behind. There's not that much reason to trap here. Of course, if you've got pocket kings, you might want to trap. But let's say you've got ace, king, aces, king, queen. I think you just rush the money in here and play your nut advantage and then have a bunch of bluffs. So he's going to size up to like probably B70. Like he's probably going to c-bet turn for 30k or nothing. Now Trueteller has a pretty clear opening to steal the pots. Because Linus is rushing money in, when he checks back, he's going to fold a lot here on the river. And there's nothing he can kind of do about that. Because, of course, he's going to have some Queen X in his range, but he's going to have a lot of air that has kind of thrown up the right flag, let's say. So, yeah, you can just block and find a bunch of folds. Check, check. Really interesting that Trueteller gives up the ace for a spades. I guess it makes sense. You've got horrendous blockers with the ace of spades there. Fine, and Linus has the pocket jacks, which is super standard. You can see, even at 100k effective, you're still 4-bet getting it in with jacks. Although if you did 4-bet, you probably wouldn't face a shove because you're too deep for that. Trueteller opens, wow, okay, action's really fast. 3x, snap call, snap 3/4, and snap fold. All right, so I'm going to have to be fast with commentary here. We're now playing 300 effective, by the way, or just shy of it. Linus is sitting there almost with 120k stack. Okay, high frequency 1/3 or 1/4, bet fold, standard. They're playing super fast. I think... Wow, yeah, they're just playing really fast. I feel like this was maybe a condition that Trueteller said, which is you've got to play fast. Maybe. Okay, 30% from Linus. This is going to be a range bet, I would imagine. Jack 10-5 is a very good board for the PFR. It's much better than a board like, let's say, King Jack 5. Interesting, you can see. Linus is actually 3-betting smaller. He goes 9.5. So we just saw a hand where Linus opens 2.5 or just shy of it, and then Trueteller goes 13.5 big blinds. But in this hand, Trueteller goes 3, Linus goes 9.5. So Trueteller is actually facing a much smaller 3-bet despite opening bigger. So just kind of showing the difference between Trueteller's more old school approach and Linus's more new school theoretical approach. Here we go, case in point. Much bigger 3-bet despite a smaller open sizing. Okay, Queen 10-8 is a very polarized texture here. There's only one flop straight, which I know is really obvious, but it's really important in heads up because you defend offsuit broadways. So if there becomes multiple straights on board, it becomes really dicey for the outposition player. But when there's only one, and you've got a bunch of these really strong draws like King Jack, Ace Jack for open enders, Ace King with a club, King 9 offsuit with a club, you play typically a lot of big bets here. I'm not really a fan of the B40, but it's not that bad. B40 is definitely better than like B25, let's say. On the turn, they've got about 50 blinds in the middle. I think you just need to go with the generic big sizing, like 15k or nothing. You could even go with like 20k, to be honest with you. It's a really disconnected turn. He goes, yeah, 24k, this makes sense. The cool thing is that whilst the 4 is disconnected, it does give some draws like 6-7 turns double gut shot, for example, although the 9 is a 4 straight to the queen 8-10 jack. But yeah, polarize is the way to go here. He bets 62 big blinds into about 50. I think this is a very good play for what it's worth. It's huge sizing, obviously, but he's just representing a very polarized range. I think if I was in his situation, which I obviously would never be at this stake, I would have gone pot. Okay, cool. 5-6 gets there, but there's not that many 5-6. And Jack 9 was already a straight, so nothing happens. The only sizing you can ever play in Trueteller shoes is going to be all in, because you've stated your claim that you're very, very, very polarized, and the 7 does not change enough. So yeah, you need to be shoving. And I think you can still get away with shoving aces here in this game. I think humans are going to probably play a bit too wide as both the better and the cooler. So I think you can get away with aces here. Let's see what happens. Bluffs are really natural as well. King Jack supernatural, King 9 supernatural, Ace Jack supernatural. Obviously depends on suits. Try not have clubs if you can. So like Ace Jack of spades is going to be a really legit bluff here. Really sick spot, man. Okay, he ends up folding. Just like that, loses 35k. I would never be able to understand how people can play for such high stakes. Okay, fast check. I think you can have two sizes here. A small sizing representing some ace-x even. You can value bet ace-7 here. Maybe not at this effective stack, but definitely ace-9 in Trueteller shoes. You can value bet for a small sizing. And then a big size, you can start value betting big with like pocket fours for like 2/3. You can even have like a really big sizing if you want to, but then it becomes very complicated. Obviously, the really big sizing is to say you've got an 8 that you've got more of than Linus. So lots of options for you if you want it. Snap check, which I expect is going to be very showdowny, because if you had, let's say, I don't know, 10-9, you would at least consider bluffing. Let's say you had 10-9 no spade. Let's say you got 10-9 of diamonds here for argument's sake, although you might always 3-bet it. Even if you didn't want to bluff, you might still consider the option of bluffing. So the snap check's very face up in my opinion. But that doesn't mean you can necessarily attack it, because the range ends up being quite stubborn anyway, facing a bet. I really like how fast they're playing, because one table I was thinking this would be too slow, but this is not too slow at all. I think the video is sped up as well. 8-7-3 you can go massive here. You can just see bet like 4k if you want to. Or like you could see bet 10 big blinds. The idea is that the board is connected but disconnected, and Linus's overpair region and ace-8 want to put a lot of money in right now whilst the board is not that connected. And then if the board continues to dry out, like let's say a deuce of clubs on the turn, then you just obviously continue your story of going very, very big. This is less true on a two-tone board. You can still go big, but you don't really get to go like 2-pot kind of big. Hopefully, this is the long video, so they have to continue playing. Okay, so Linus goes with the c-bet on the turn of the same sizing to the flop. Same sizing, different idea. The flop is very polarized. The turn is a bit mergy now, because you get to bet some random 9s that you turned, like 9-6, 9-5. Linus is understandably a bit tilted, down a lot of money. It's interesting, like the old Linus I think was way more tilt happy than these days. I feel like I never see anything from him at the tables, although I don't really sweat him like I used to, but he seems very stoic these days compared to how he was. Another of those ace-x wheel boards where you go with the small sizing. Let's just okay, sizes to 10 blinds this time. I think he sized to 9.5 when he was 300 big blinds effective, and then he sized to 10 at 250. So you can see like how accurate he tries to play. Like, who out there is changing their 3-bet sizing up by 0.5 because they're playing 250 blinds effective compared to 300. Like, that level of detail is so acute. But that's why he's so good, is that he pays attention to these small things, like very small things. Because obviously he's not got solutions for 250 blinds and then 300 blinds. And this is also years back now. So I'm 100% sure he doesn't have solutions for all these different stack depths. But he's still trying to live solve things, which is very good. Okay, check, bet, call, bet for like 40%. 875 is a board as at a position that you want to play some big bets on. Not very many bets, but when you do bet, you bet very big. And Trueteller stabs 40%. Makes sense. Turn is interesting. There's two ways to play the turn here. The first way is to size down and bet pretty often. The second way is to polarize and bet big, because remember, they're super deep. Yeah, he does go big here. Going small doesn't really do your top end of range justice at this SPR, so I think I prefer the bigger sizing. You need to include some hands even as weak as a set here. Well, I say weak, it's still a strong hand. Because if the board does pair, you need to make sure to have some boats. You can't only bet your 6, 10, 6, Jack 10. 10 doesn't really change much. Linus might have some hands like Jack 9 occasionally, flopping double gut shot, check calling. But apart from that, it's going to be a good river for Trueteller, actually. He's going to have some random like Jack 4 suited, and then some random bluffs like King Jack suited. So King Jack offsuit that he bets on the turn with the club. So he actually has more straights than Linus here, at least more jacks, I should say. And he's the only player with Queen Jack too. So yeah, the big sizing makes sense. Linus is actually re-topping up to 100k exactly there. So that's the max re-top up on PokerStars. You can't top up more than 250 blinds. So definitely trying to get his money back, which is understandable. Down $500,000 or something. Crazy. All right, we're back. Here we go. Some dead action pre-flop. So Trueteller has 555k effectively. 554k now. It's so sick. It's sick in a sense that, like, back then when there was high stakes action on PokerStars, you would so rarely see 100k in someone's stack. But in this case, the guy with 100k has less than 20% of the other guy. It's just ridiculous. Okay, what was 3-bet sizing here? He's now going with 14 big blinds. All right. So 2.4 open, 14 big blinds from Trueteller. A7-6, you're going to have a very small sizing, like 10% here or 15%. You really don't want to go too big because there's so much symmetry. Like, both players have sets, both players have two pairs, both players have top pair, both players have flushes. So you can't go so big because the other player just has an easy time here. You need to go small to create the indifference. Okay, on the turn, I wouldn't have a big sizing here. I think you might be allowed to in theory, but it's very complicated. In truth, a lot of your nut flushes would bet the flop, so I think a small sizing only makes sense. Yeah, this is what I would do. And you're also not betting too much either. Again, there's so much symmetry. And similar to the last hand with the straight boards, you need to have some pocket pairs in range, like pocket sixes, so that you can have boats. Case in point, you need to not only bet flushes here. You can definitely bet ace-queen on the turn because it was a very small sizing. Who has the most boats here? Or who is... Okay, this river is definitely good for Linus because all of Trueteller's bluffs, every single one of them, missed. I don't think you get to bet a queen on the turn, which would river trips. So this is definitely a good river for Linus. Who has the most boats? Probably... I'm actually not sure. I think it's quite symmetrical. If I were to guess, I would say Linus, but I don't... It might be a case of Linus has more boats, but Trueteller has more ace-queen, and therefore it might kind of even out. As Linus here, I think you just stab for like 11k, 12k, whatever his hotkey is. I think it's like 11-2 because he bets 70%. And your betting range and bluffing range is just super obvious at this point. I don't think he'll size up more than 70%. Oh, he does. He goes pot. That's really interesting. Okay, I wonder why he did that, because I think when he's going pot, he's claiming to have a smaller sizing of half pots, which I don't like because you're supposed to be polarized here, right? It's a paired 4-flush board. Any weak hand that is thin value can just check back and realize 100% equity for free. So yeah, I don't think he's playing pot only, and I don't think pot's his smaller sizing. So the pot, I think, really has to insinuate that the smaller sizing of half pot with it, which I just don't think makes much sense. I could be wrong. This is kind of a fun video. I'm not going to go into Wizard or my own sims and do research. But yeah, this strikes me as like a spot where mixing a small sizing of 50% wouldn't make much sense when you're supposed to be very polarized. That's why I liked the idea of 70%. It's just more polarized, right? And then if you want to have a bigger size, you can go like 70% and 150 if you want to. Anyway, that's my take. Queen 9-5, I would expect a big sizing. Nope, okay, small sizing. This is fine at 100 blinds. I want to show you guys something. Maybe I've got the solutions here. Yeah, solution aggregation. So like Queen 9-5 is fine to go small, okay? As you can see. But also they're very, very, very deep. So the deeper you are, the more you want to size up. However, just change the 5 to a 6. And now, actually what I'll do is I'll put this, here we go. See how the Queen 9-5 is opting for a very depolarized small sizing, but then the Queen 9-6 is saying, I don't really want to size down, I want to check 50% of the time, and then if I want to bet, I would usually want to size up to like 70% a pot. I would think something similar to this happens on the Queen 9-5 when you're really deep, because these 5-4 suited bets and the pocket sixes and, you know, the ace king value bets are less viable when you're sitting with 300 blinds or like 260 blinds. So that's my assumption. I don't think this is a mistake though from Linus at all. It's probably just fine, honestly. Could be completely wrong. Anyway, we're facing a big check raise. This is about pots. Bad turn for Trueteller. Not only does he have no aces, but he really doesn't have ace-queen either, so this is a really good turn for Linus. Also, all of the bluffs that Trueteller has have whiffed, and he's got more than Linus does, because Linus doesn't get to float as wide as Trueteller can check raise. That's bizarre. This has to be a mistake, because he's really polarized. Yeah, when you check raise the flop to pots, it really doesn't make sense to size down to this sizing, I don't think. You can go with a like 2/3 sizing if you want to imply that you're polarized, but because the turn's bad for you, you don't want to build a huge pot. But the 1/3 to me doesn't make any sense. For example, if you sit there with 9-5 of diamonds, if you don't want to put much money in, then just simply check. But the 1/3 seems really unnecessary. Even if you run a solution and it says 1/3 is okay, just look at the EV loss that you have. If you remove 1/3, it will be 0. So it's just like, yeah, it's pointless in my opinion. Okay, we get block. Wouldn't be surprised if this is just massively overbluffed, because there's not many value hands that want to take this line. But it does get a fold. There's not many value hands that want to take that line, and there's a lot of bluffs that want to take that line. It's like random 6-8s and 7-6s with a spade, for example. Okay, very like it's snap check from Linus here. This is so different from Linus today. Like he would just never snap check like this. Expecting to see $2,500 or nothing, 3.2 even bigger, and snap fold. Fine. $556,000, $557,000. Speed through to some action. Okay, single raise pots. Going to see that small sizing again, whatever that number is. Okay, check actually. You don't want to have too big of a sizing here in Trueteller's shoes, because Linus obviously does turn deuces here. So whilst if you're in the big blind with king deuce, you can't just start going like 5k, because Linus just has his king deuce that says, okay, fine, oh cool, no problem. But if it was jack deuce deuce 8, then you can go much bigger, because now you've got way more deuces in the big blind. So small things like that matter. Okay, probably like 1/3, 2/3, and now 2/3 only is Linus. Maybe he has a half pot here. This actually makes a lot of sense to go half pot. goes he goes in the middle. King 6, fine, standard. And snap call from Trueteller, so he just, yeah, snap checks the river to snap call. As I mentioned, that snap check is quite stubborn usually. Now Linus has taken more time, so has a decision. I really think the Linus we're seeing right now is nothing like the Linus we see today, where he doesn't give away these small timing tails. He's very deliberate with always taking his time, like always waiting for the clock to run down so he can match all of his timings at the same point. Anyway, 2/3, 2/3, approximately, from Linus here. Pretty awkward spot. You've got so many hands in Trueteller's shoes. They've got quite a lot of equity, but they're struggling to continue. You're very, very deep. You're out of position. Check raising is not that promising because obviously Linus has a bunch of hands, even hands you're drawing dead to, because Linus has got infinite boats here. So it's a pretty awkward situation with a bunch of your like queen jacks, king 8s, queen 8s with a nut shot to the jack. If you, I mean, not nut actually, but stronger straight draw. You have to just muck a lot of them. That's why the Linus 2/3 is very effective there. You get a lot of equity to fold for that sizing, just because of the stack depth and the positional advantage. Okay, we'll find some hands. Queen 6 deuce. Nowadays, you would see players go B40 on this texture because it's very disconnected, and your ace high is able to value bet for a bigger sizing. So like your ace jack can just go slightly bigger size and still value bet just comfortably. Standard overbet we'd see today still. For how deep they are, we're not seeing that many big pots, it feels like. Small bets, raise. Really bizarre that he raises smaller by 1 big blind. I get it. The queen 9/5 is, you want to polarize. Well, no, actually that is interesting because king 10/4 compared to queen 9/5, I'm referring to the hand that he check raised up against Linus a moment ago, you would be more polarized in the king 10/4 than the queen 9/5. So I'm wondering why he chose to size down 1 big blind. Trueteller is obviously an extremely smart guy, so I'm sure he's aware of these small details. Unless this video is like threaded together and this was not a recent hand, but no, I'm pretty sure that was just a few hands ago. Surprising that he would change a small thing like that. Really good board for Linus here. Expect a lot of small bets for like 3,200 maybe, B40. Curious to see what he does actually. He goes smaller. This is 30%. Raise to 21. Okay, so Linus goes 6. Trueteller goes 20.5. You're calling 5/5 into 18/5. Okay. Cool. Interesting turn. Definitely a good turn for Linus here. For sure, Linus is going to be 3-betting hands like 6/5 offsuit, king 6 suited. So he will 3-bet them and definitely bet the flop in this quite disconnected texture. So he's going to have more 6s arriving to the turn. Doesn't lead the turn, which is slightly interesting. And Trueteller checks back. All right. Interesting to see here. I think you have a lot of small bets on this river because you don't have that many good hands when it goes 6th and ace flush. I think, yeah, block is your primary sizing here. It's not that your range is struggling. I think you've got way more equity than in position, but it's your equity is not typically that nutted. So you play lots of small sizings, I think. You could even go smaller. I'm pretty sure 10% is a really good sizing in that spot. See if we can find any interesting hands here. I'm getting impatient. as I sit there watching guys play with like hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I'm getting impatient. Okay, single raise pot, check, check. Polarized turn. It's going to end up being quite a standard hand, I guess. Expect just to see at $13.30 bets, B70. Yeah. And this time, snap, check, fold. This mouse on the screen is not me, by the way. This is a recording on YouTube, so it's the guy sweating doing that. All right, 4-bet pots, hopefully. 32.5. Same sizing we saw earlier, but facing a different 3-bet sizing. So this is 10 big blind 3-bet, and then Trueteller goes 3.25x. Linus will do what? Cool. Okay, Queen 8 deuce. Pretty good board for Linus here. He has more pocket 8s. He's even got more pocket deuces. I'm not sure if he'd be 3-betting that hand at this effective stack, but he probably would some of the time. Trueteller, though, does have Queen 8 suited, which he might decide to 4-bet. I don't think Trueteller's playing GTO ranges in this match. I think he's kind of winging it, probably. So I expect he might 4-bet a hand like Queen 8 suited sometimes. That's a really big deal. Anyway, it's a good board for Linus. Okay, check, check. 1/3 on the turn. Makes sense. You can do a bunch of different sizes. You can go like 30, 40, 50, 60. I think 70% is a bit rich, but probably fine because you're very deep. Wow. Jesus Christ. I wasn't expecting that. So he's just saying he's got exactly turned Queen Jack or exactly turned Jack Jack. If you've got 10-9... yeah, okay, some combos of 10-9 would want to do this, but honestly, you don't really have much 10-9 in range anyway when you 4-bet pre. 10-9 suited does not 4-bet, and I don't think he would 4-bet that hand, and then 10-9 offsuit seems like a very, very loose 4-bet. So I don't think Trueteller's really got any 10-9, but obviously he does have the Queen, Jack, and Jacks. Really, really, really sick spot. So the pot is effectively 26 plus 8, so it's 34, and Linus has to call 94. So you guys do the math. That's a big raise. It's a pretty sick raise. That woke me up. As sick as it is, I almost feel like the response is quite easy, because you just have a bunch of auto mucks, right? And then a bunch of auto calls. So the only hand I can see being quite awkward for Linus is going to be a hand like Ace Queen, right? And aces in Linus's shoes, because you wouldn't always want to 5-bet aces pre. So yeah, maybe you've got Ace Queen aces, it gets a bit awkward, but otherwise you just sit there and you typically have quite an easy decision, actually, because all the way the board is, it's just like a very... your equity is quite static, and that's like the wrong word to use, but I think you guys know what I mean. You've either got a lot or you've not got much. Hence, that's why Linus is quite polarized here. Well, let's see what he does. Yeah, and he does respond quite fast, hinting at what I was talking about. I'm not saying he's always got a fast decision, but I think often he does. Really cool line. I think this is... obviously, we don't know what Trueteller had. I'm going to pause while this guy wants to rewatch it. Whilst I don't know what Trueteller had, I think the play is quite ingenious, because when you're sitting in Linus's shoes and it goes open 3-bet, 4-bet call, check, check, block, I don't think Linus is actually so conscious of the idea of getting shoved into. Now, of course, it's possible, but I'm pretty sure when he bets the turn there with whatever hand he has, he's not really thinking, oh, some of the time I'm going to get shoved into. So then when you do get shoved into, there's like the, oh, I didn't think about that being a problem. So this might be a spot where Trueteller is kind of one step ahead. At least I'm projecting, because if I was in that situation, I wouldn't expect to shove. So yeah, take that what you will. Let's just let this guy fast forward through it. Okay, we have what looks to be a single raise pots. Check, 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 check. 4 straight river, block. Queen 9, 9 8, nice hand. These are situations where you need to not bluff everything as out of position, because in heads up you'd have way too many bluffs. So if you sit there with a hand like 5 deuce of clubs, you probably don't bluff it always or even ever. So when you hear someone say, "God damn it, I got to bluff this because I'm at the bottom of my range," that's not always correct. And actually that logic is more of an indirect thing, where a lot of the time you bluff because you've got good unblockers, but sometimes unblockers are not enough. So yeah, don't just bluff because you're at the bottom of your range. That doesn't always check out in theory. It might do in practice, but in theory it doesn't always check out. Especially in a situation like that, right? A heads up single raise pot, ranges are super, super wide. If you bluff all of your 3 deuce, 4 deuce, 5 deuce, 6 deuce, 7 deuce, 8 deuce, and then the 3x and the 4x, like the 4 3 5 3 6 3 7 3, you just get way too many bluffs. Okay, interesting. Wow, I thought that pot was going to get big. Big sizing, big check raise. But Linus was just airballing it. We haven't seen many of those big bets on dry textures so far. See again. I expect a small sizing here, but maybe not. He does go with that big sizing. Similar idea, by the way. We just looked at the Queen 9-5, Queen 9-6. If we say Jack 9-4, you have a small sizing. Whoops. Here. But if you make it Jack 9-6, you've now got, oh, a small sizing. Okay, I actually did not realize that was the case. Well, I'm just obviously wrong. I would have expected Jack 9-6 to be a big sizing here. So if you put King and Queen, all right, interesting. So the King and Queen like more checks and big sizes, but then the Jack's still going small. All right, I learn. Cool. All right, we'll find one more interesting hand and then wrap this one up. Let me know if you'd like more of this. If you do, then I'll definitely make a part 2. This was intended to be like quite a fun video, less serious, more just sweating insane high stake action. 7-6 deuce, just to show you guys, is another one of those very big sizing boards you see here. If you want to play this way, you just don't bet anything less than huge. You just go 233%. I stole that from Owen Miss here. You can go like, 175, 200, 225, 250, 3 pot even if you want to. Just go very big. It puts problems into your villain's shoes. Problems that they didn't realize were happening. So similar to the hand with the Queen 8 deuce Jack, where Linus probes small, I said that he probably wasn't expecting to ever get shoved into. If the board comes 7-6 deuce rainbow, big blind's probably not expecting in position to bet 2 pot. So if you're the guy with the prerogative to bet 2 pot because you've studied that, you're one step ahead. You're doing something that big blind didn't know was going to happen at all. They're expecting like maybe a B70 or pot, but they're not expecting like 2 pot or 3 pot out of nowhere. Anyway, I'll stop rambling about that now. So 13.5 big blind 3 bets. Spec some small sizes like maybe 3,000-4,000 and check. You definitely can't bet range on this board, this effective stack. It's just too much SPR. Like they're playing with a 9 SPR, which is really sick. Usually you're playing a lot less. Okay, Linus stabs B40. Note how he's gone 40%, not 30%. There is a, it's a small difference, but it's not so subtle in theory. Yes, it's only 10% of pots, but the architecture of that bet is very different between, such a small change. Okay, I don't think donking makes much sense in the Jack. This is actually a good turn for Linus. This is very strange, because Linus actually has some random Jack 4, Jack 5 bluffs. So he just turns top pairs that Trueteller doesn't have. Donking big to me is just looks like a mistake. Very interested to see what happens in this hand here. When I say it's a mistake, I don't know what Trueteller has. He could just have a bluff, he could have quads, he could have a boat, he could have a straight draw, he could have a flush draw, he could have a combo draw. I have no idea what he has, but I just don't think it's a correct play, is my point. So, donks 2/3, king on the river. Well, I don't know what he had, so I don't know how good the river is. I would have to imagine the river's good for him, because how could it not be? 2 SPR. just shy of it, and blocks. Wow, this is a bizarre hand. So 3-bet pre, check call B40, donk 2/3, c-bet 1/3. No idea what to make of this. Would be lost. Raise sizing needs to be all in if you want to find it. Well, he does find it. Wow, what do you have, Trueteller? No snap call. Okay, so is this tank just a Hollywood with some bluff, or is he actually in a tough situation? King Queen kind of makes some sense, right? King Queen, check call flop, turns the nut open ender, rivers a king. Makes some sense. Probably just had a bluff though, because King Queen wouldn't fold that fast, I don't think. So maybe King 9, but then your 9 doesn't play. So yeah, really odd hand. I'm actually curious what you guys think about that one. Not necessarily to what you think he has, but like, oh, actually, yeah, what do you think he has there? I think he had a bluff, I guess, but King Queen makes a lot of sense. Anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you'd like to see more of this, then leave me a comment below letting me know, and I can certainly do more. And if you did enjoy, please leave the video a like and subscribe to the channel. It's been myself, Lou Johnson, for Know Your Poker. Thank you for watching. Take care. Bye-bye for now.